Good evening and welcome to another edition of Watching You. I'm Jeff Scott in balmy St. John, New Brunswick, and joining me from beautiful sunny Nova Scotia is...
Jeff Gray, minus 19 degrees Celsius last night.
Ooh, terrible. And Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's January 1st.
Yeah, we didn't think to do a New Year's show. We did a Christmas show, which, by the way, is surpassed the previous two shows already.
Yeah, people are in the Christmas spirit.
They're definitely in the Christmas spirit.
Did you get any Christmas bling for Christmas?
No, I got exactly what I always want for Christmas when it comes to Kiss bling, which means I got nothing.
Nothing. My wife was in a generous mood, so she gave me a Kiss T-shirt, and fortunately it's the current lineup, but that's okay. They're good rock and rollers.
Yeah. So she doesn't get it, right?
No, she doesn't get it.
Hey, it's Kiss. It's guys with makeup.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah, to her, it looked like Peter Criss.
I saw something on Facebook today or yesterday. It said the perfect woman loves Kiss. That's what it said.
I saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I'm kind of glad that Donna's got her own thing and I got this, right?
Yeah. And I was at work. Since we're talking about album covers, I was at work. My wife called me and she said, "What's your favorite Kiss album cover?" I said, "Love Gun, hands down." And she says, "Oh, what's your second favorite album cover?" I said, "Destroyer." She goes, "Oh, okay, gotta go, bye." And she takes off, and I said, "Okay, she's shopping for Christmas, right? So she's gonna get me a T-shirt or something." But
yeah.
Anyway, so a couple weeks later, she said, "So you really love Rock and Roll Over?" I said, "No, I don't really like Rock and Roll Over." And she says, "Well, you told me you did on the phone." I said, "No." I said, "Love Gun is my favorite album cover, and Destroyer is my second favorite album cover." And she says, "Oh, well, if I got you something with Love Gun on it, would you still like it?" I said, "Yeah, I guess." Anyway, so I got this really cool Rock and Roll Over guitar strap, which actually is nicer. We've seen the Destroyer one, and it's not as nice. This is a nicer design.
I said I didn't want any bling, but I think one thing I wouldn't mind having would be the lightning bolt guitar strap.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having one of those.
You could make that.
Yeah, I make stuff. I got you to make stuff.
It's masking tape and spray paint.
I know. I just like I said. Like I said the other day, I need a couple more backdrops. By the way, Jeff. So, chop, will ya?
So we are on episode. Is it 15?
Yes, it's episode 15, and
album covers too. So we were kind of full circle. We're going back to the beginning.
Well, when you were just talking a little while ago, you were just talking about your favorite album cover, and I had a flashback to that show because we both were kind of gog over Love Gun cover. Yeah. Right. So we stopped, I think, around Dynasty, somewhere around there.
Around Dynasty, yeah. And I want to backtrack just a little bit because I just have a couple of things I want to mention, and we missed a couple along the way, a couple of insignificant albums, but we'll mention them for sure. So the first thing I'm going to do is put up a collage of the first 4 releases, which are Kiss, Harder Than Hell, Dressed to Kill, and Alive. And if you look at those 4 together, and I'm sure at some point in time the 4 of those albums must have been on some boardroom table or someone's desk, and then if you look at the next releases, Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, and Kiss Alive 2, and then you go back and forth between those and look at the difference in color.
Very much,
I think that has a lot, that certainly has an impact when you go into a record store, especially new people who are becoming Kiss fans and jumping on board because of things like the success of Kiss Alive or the Paul Lynde Halloween special on TV. So people are going to the record stores. I mean, that Destroyer album has to stand out.
That's this is a pretty good discussion because I'm not sure which ones would draw me in more.
Yeah, I mean, Kiss Alive 2, I think probably is the most eye-catching. Mainly because that Kiss logo is so big, so red. I think that's certainly the most eye-catching. From a distance. Yeah, consider walking into a record store. There's so much.
Well, merchandising-wise, I would say, in terms of visual. But I don't know that if I had looked at those covers, for instance, I looked at obviously the first 4 covers are all actual pictures of them, right? And then the next except for Alive too has some portraits of them, but the rest of it is all cartoon. So I don't know. As a 17-year-old, I might have actually found, Love Gun and Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over. I may not have been as interested in them because it was a little too cartoony.
Yeah, that's a matter of taste. I found the artwork incredibly well done, except Rock and Roll All Night. But Destroyer and Love Gun, I found the artwork to be incredibly cool, and I think that drew me into those albums for sure. But to each his own. I mean, if you prefer a photograph, like the Kiss Alive cover certainly is the most, the most representative of who they are, and certainly looks the most cool of all of the first releases.
Well, also there's a difference in direction too at the time too, and I think they definitely they portray the band in a very, very different way. Those first 4 albums, and I think we talked about this a little bit the other day. To me, the Kiss Alive, much more black feeling, and much more gothic feeling in a way, right? So more serious than the next 4. Destroyer, Love Gun, Rock and Roll Over, and Kiss Alive. Very cartoony. And by that time, the Destroyer was by Love Gun, and they had got to the point where Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun, where they started to kind of, think really consciously about the total marketing of the band. I think, right?
I think they did, and I think the cover they had to. I mean, just compare it to the first album cover, Kiss. I mean, it was a professional photo shoot, but I don't think it really does anything or says anything exciting about the band.
Well, they were still trying to figure. They were still trying to figure out who they were, though. I mean,
I think it was the day of the shoot that someone, either Neil Bogart or Bill Coyne, actually said, we got you a record deal. Do you still want to do this in makeup? Are you serious? You're going to do this cover shoot in makeup? And there might have been a little hesitation, and they said, we're doing this in makeup.
And that's what we talked about. I mean, we talked about that part of it, and you can tell, like in that first the evolution. That's what's really interesting to me is the evolution of the band and how they saw themselves as they were presenting themselves in album covers. The first album cover is obvious, and we should get onto the other ones because we kind of covered these. But it's obvious to me. Like if you look, we went into the details of Peter Criss's makeup. They were still an Ace Frehley, all the silver and the hair, and they were still figuring out who they were, and they hadn't even figured it out yet, right?
Yeah. Just to mention Hotter Than Hell. Have you seen the original photo that was used for Hotter Than Hell?
I don't know. Did you share it in that show?
I don't know. I think I found it recently, but something? It's a much better photo than what appeared on the album cover.
Oh, is that right?
It's more detailed. They should have used color. It's sharper. What ended up on the album cover is blurry. It's blurry compared to the original. The original is quite sharp. I think the original photo is a good representation of the band, but what ended up on the cover was a very poor reproduction, and someone, like I said in that episode 1 that it was like some design students failing project.
So why do you think there was anything else to it other than, I mean, because it's striking, going back and forth between these two photos, the collages you put together, and it is extremely, there's a big difference in the color palette.
Definitely. A lot of orange and yellow and red. And to some extent blue, and those are the primary colors. Not too much green going on there, but a little bit.
Yeah.
But really playing on the orange and red and yellow, and those are the hot colors, and they catch your eye and they draw you in.
And then the next album was what?
Well, we missed a couple along the way, so we're going to go back. I'm just going to mention, just as a footnote, the originals. Do you have a copy of the originals?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I found one at a yard sale sometime in the last 20 years and brought it home. I think I got it for a couple of dollars, but there was some neat little stuff in there. There was a booklet and some cards, and in terms of an album cover, it wasn't that exciting.
No.
It had like a big explosion of flame, and very faintly in the explosion you can kind of see the original portrait from the first album.
Well, that wasn't. When you think about that album, it was put out after. When did it actually come out?
After Alive, they really wanted to boost the sales of the.
Was it before Destroyer?
Before, probably around the same time. It could be after Destroyer.
No. Well, the reason I ask is because that album was put out. I think, probably for people who were already fans of the band. It was so the cover wasn't as important to them apparently. It seems that because it was for like exactly what they did for me was they filled in the gaps, right? For me, I went back and bought those 3, and like I said, when the music, I had trouble assimilating to the production values on those albums when I got them, but the album cover didn't matter to me. But it's funny, at the same time we talked, I think it was the guitar show, or that it might have been in this show, the Albums One show, where I talked about getting the original songbook. Probably the most pivotal event for me as a guitar player was getting that songbook, because it actually had things in the right keys and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep. The other one to mention is Double Platinum, which was my first album. And I think the reason I bought Double Platinum is because it had the better song selections. There was poor album selection in Gander, where I grew up, but in St. John's, Newfoundland, there was a bigger, I think we were at a Woolworths or a Kmart or something. And anyway, they had a Live 2, and they had a couple of other ones. But I looked at Double Platinum, I looked at the song list, and it just had more songs that I recognized. And I thought it's a double album, and it had Beth, Calling Dr. Love, Hard Luck Woman. I said I want to get this album because it had a more comprehensive representation of the band. The album cover itself is not that exciting. It's just the Kiss logo on top of red lettering, Double Platinum. But inside, I think for people who bought the 8-track, they missed out on something really cool, because inside you have these embossed faces, and it's from the Barry Levine photo shoot. It's the exact same poses that they eventually used for the album cover, the solo album covers. But what was cool was they were embossed, and I think any kid who had the same idea I had was you would take a piece of blank paper and tape it over the embossed portrait and do a graphite rubbing with a pencil, and you could see these faces come through. And I thought that was pretty cool. I liked that. That was sort of special. And how many albums are in Mylar? This shiny silver Mylar. I thought it was kind of neat. I'd never had an album that looked like that before.
So we have such a different experience with this, you and I.
Yeah.
But I'm smiling because it's cool, because you totally have a different viewpoint and appreciation for different things that I didn't even think about. Yeah. I mean, everything you just said about that album. I said, it was silver, I think. And it had what I was thinking about was some of the remixes on it.
They did remix some things which weren't as cool. No.
I didn't like the Strutter remix, and I didn't like the change. What was it? They changed Hard Luck Woman too, didn't they? They started the drums later.
The drums come in
after the first verse.
Later, yeah.
In the second verse, so it's like you missed that whole first.
Yeah.
And it really deadens the song. But anyway, we're not talking about the music. But see, that's where my head goes.
Yes.
The covers, to me, it's the candy wrapper, but the candy's inside, and it is for you too. I know that, but that's all it's ever. See, that's the thing when we talked about merchandise before, because I don't have Kiss merchandise, because that's not. I don't have that same. I like it, but I don't have an appreciation for it. Right?
Yeah.
Not like you do, and a lot of people. There's a lot of people who like you put out that Sergeant Love Gun picture the other day. People love that stuff. I mean, it's all they pick up on that, and
there's hidden pictures in there as well. So
yeah. I know. I know I wasn't in it.
No, I should have put you in there.
Anyway,
I put myself in as an afterthought. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, as long as you got in there.
Yeah. Well, I'll make a version 2 and put you in there.
Well, I looked at it, I said, geez, that's probably what he's going to do. He's got all these other people, and he's going to hide us in there, too, for the show, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did, I put myself in and got distracted, made a JPEG, and posted it in. I would have put it in.
I'm kidding. It was great. I loved it. And but that kind
of... let's pick up where we left off.
Yeah, okay, right on.
We left off with Dynasty.
Dynasty.
So the next album in the Kiss lineup would be Unmasked.
Yeah, so
the artist is Victor Stabin. He not only designed the front cover, but he also designed that poster, which is one of the panels in the cartoon. What did you think of the cartoon? Did you like it? Did you find it funny? Or
I thought it was
silly.
No, I thought it was stupid because I was going to talk about Dynasty for a second, because Dynasty they went back to using actual photos of themselves, the four of them. And I found that much cooler. And then I must admit, I was completely surprised when Unmasked came out and it was all cartoons again. I said, geez, they're back to cartoons again.
But bear in mind that they had 2 Marvel comic books put out. So these guys, and they had the movie. These guys are now comic book characters, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't surprise me at all.
And that's why I started driving off the road. See, because at that point, because it was that's exactly what it became. And I wasn't looking for comic book characters.
No.
I was looking for.
You're looking for rock and roll.
I'm looking for hard rock and roll with balls, and I was
Unmasked didn't have it.
Absolutely. You always get the boys you like. I know people like that, and then he did that, and he got into the Elvis impersonations again, and but anyway, it's
music aside. The album cover, I picked it up and I read it through, and I thought, well. This is kind of silly. And of course, the final joke on it is the reporter says, "I still say they stink," which is just kind of, I think the young people were divided at that time. There were those who liked Kiss and those who absolutely didn't like Kiss.
I think they were completely not.
Kiss knew that. Yeah,
I think they were a non-event at that point.
They were what?
A non-event at that point.
Yeah.
So they had. The Dynasty was the last kick at the can. Unmasked came out to, I don't think, like when I think about, that was 1980, I think, 81. It must have been 80, it was 81, part of 81 when that came out.
1980, I believe.
Yeah, because I know I just got married in 81, and I had it on 8-track, I think I told you that. But it was such a there's an album out. Oh, it's got cartoons on it. I put the first song on, and I was like, ooh. So I
kind of like the first song. Is That You? It was not written by anyone in Kiss. It's written by a third party, but I kind of liked it. I thought it had a cool sound. Paul Stanley was cool on that. And I didn't mind it too much.
You like things like I'm Just a Boy too, though, right?
No, I don't like that. I like the elder, but I don't like I'm a Boy.
Just a Boy. Well, it's not that far off of that. I mean, you always get the boys. But anyway, but you know what? I said this before. It was just the production treatment of that song. That song could have been, if he sang that like he's saying "I Stole Your Love" with that kind of a voice, it would have been a cool song if they'd heavied it up a little bit.
But he had done "I Was Made for Loving You," and he had those high falsettos, and people loved that. They thought that was cool. So he had a new gimmick now. Paul Stanley had a new instrument in his back.
Yeah, true enough, and he used it. Yeah.
But the album cover, getting back to the album cover, it's very self-glorifying. You see, Jean is trying to enjoy dinner with a movie starlet, and she's this hot, dark-haired bombshell, and I think Paul is with a young lady, and they had to put that in there, right? It's like, we date beautiful women, and we're followed by photographers everywhere we go. Quick, Ace and Peter are on their way to a premiere. It could be a premiere for something else. But now they're superstars, and they go to all the cool Hollywood things, and the paparazzi follows them wherever they go.
You know what it was? It was a false promise for me. I remember now. I was trying to think back, and I remember thinking, we're actually going to see them without makeup.
Yeah.
and it was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to see them without makeup. And they actually did, 2 more albums before they took the makeup off.
Well, it goes right back to that line that Gene had in Paul Lynde when he says, "How long does it take you to put on your makeup?" And Gene goes, "We don't wear makeup." Yeah. So the whole premise that, these guys wake up looking like that.
Do you think that at the time, or do you think they were, at that point, they were contemplating the next album, or that album even?
I think that when the train started to derail, I think that they were considering. But Creatures, they were kind of hot again, and at least for a while. So I think they struggled with it. There's that time period between 1980 and 83. I think that makeup could have come off at any point in time. It just happened to come after Creatures.
Now, having said all of what I just said, look, there's all don't get me wrong. There's all different kinds of fans who appreciate different things from the band. I know for a fact that we know this for a fact. Everybody knows this, that Shandy was a big song in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
The Aussies loved Kiss,
and I think they love them more than anybody in the world, if you ask me, from some of the things I've seen. But they also like the pop. They really like the pop stuff, including "I Was Made for Loving You," all of that stuff, right? Where North Americans are a little more. This was, I'm not really into that as much. But I wondered at the time. I wonder if they were actually thinking that the next album they were going to go without the makeup. But we won't know, obviously. But
yeah. Well, the next album then is The Elder, and we did an entire show on The Elder. I'm not sure which episode it is, 7 or 8 or 6.
Yeah, it's one of those in there, yeah.
But we talked mostly about the music, but the album cover itself. Oh, we talked about the album cover. I was saying how confused I was because it was the first time. That was the first album cover where you don't get members of Kiss on the front.
Isn't
first
it?
Time ever.
It's
except Double Platinum.
It's almost like another clue, though, isn't it? Like what's behind the door?
Yeah.
Right. What's behind the door? We're unmasked. Oh no, we're not. Oh, Elder, what's behind the door? Nothing's behind the door. Actually, that one was almost void of imagery, right? It was all, like I said on the show that time there, I saw knights sitting around the table eating mutton is what I saw in my head, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the inside gatefold was this huge
table, right?
Table.
Yeah.
And you had the Council of the Elder and this huge description of who the Council of the Elder are and what they stand for, and the boy is a warrior, and I think you're going to like this one. He's got the light in his eyes.
Yeah. We had fun with that conversation.
We go back and listen to the Elder broadcast. It was a good discussion. There was some argument for a while as to whether it was Paul Stanley's hand knocking on the door, and I'll insert now. There is a photograph of Paul in front. I knew it was Paul's hand because if you just watch enough Kiss, you even know what their hands look like. But you can see Paul's hand there by the knocker. And
I don't know what his hand looks like.
Oh, I do. He's got very long
5 fingers.
He's got guitar player hands.
5 fingers, I think. So, is that a guitar?
Definitely
player?
Paul Stanley with the certainly intriguing. It's an intriguing looking album.
Why do you think?
Because of its lack of anything. I mean, we look at Kiss Alive. That's intriguing, but it's just nothing held back. It just shows you exactly what's going on in a Kiss concert. Whereas, like you said, what's behind the door? Why is this hand in front of a door, and what's behind it? So that was kind of a bit of a mystery. And then the album confused me because for the first time there was no Kiss members on the album cover, and that both confused me and disappointed me.
Yeah, but you know what I think? I think they didn't know who the Kiss members were going to be.
Oh, I want to go back to Unmasked very, very quickly.
No,
but by the time I got Unmasked, I knew that Eric Carr was a new member of the band.
Oh, okay.
And on the front of Unmasked, you see all this, reference to Peter Criss.
Yeah. So
that confused me and I had to go to Wikipedia just recently. It's only a matter of months. Unmasked came out, and then it's just a matter of like 4 or 5 months later, Eric Carr was announced as a new member on one of these TV shows. That was their official unveiling. By the time I got Unmasked, I knew that Peter was gone, so that confused me. Why was he prominent on the album cover? Anyway.
Yeah, well, I think that the more these conversations make me think about things that I don't normally think about, and no, seriously, I mean, this is like this. I'm like, oh yeah, right. Well, you kind of read into these things a little bit, but you think about what was going on in the band at the time. What were they going to put on the cover? I mean, when we get to Creatures, we'll talk about that in a second because they knew 3/4 of it for sure, and they were but on the Elder one. Really, it was just Gene and Paul, and like I said, Bob Ezrin, and Ace was doing his own thing. So who do they put on the cover? So they probably just said, let's keep it generic, and we don't have to worry about that.
And going with the concept, I mean, Bob Ezrin had done Pink Floyd The Wall, so sounds like an avalanche. Just my kids still awake. They're hyped up on Christmas treats and sugar. Anyway, The Wall. Look how simple The Wall was. Just a brick wall with Pink Floyd The Wall on it. And, I mean, and again, sort of conflicted with the image of Kiss. Can we make serious music without being known as face painted Marvel characters? So I think it was an attempt to put out a serious concept album and have the same kind of success that Pink Floyd The Wall had. That's my take on it.
No, it could be. It could be that way as well. It could be, like you said. I don't know. I think there's more to that story than I guess the other thing I wonder is, were they really? Because when you think about the merchandise, we talked about those second 4 albums there and the merchandising out, do you really think that when the Elder came out and Unmasked came out, do you think that they really thought that they were going to get a bunch of new audience?
No.
Or were they doing this for the existing audience?
They're trying to hang on to the audience that were the diehards in 76, 77, 78. By 78, 79, they had a huge KISS army.
Yeah.
Now their job is to keep that KISS army on board.
Yeah, so does
I don't know if they're getting any. They might have been getting new people. It's hard to say. I don't know. It's from my perspective, because I was a diehard by 77, 78, and now it's like, come on, guys, you got to give me something to keep me on board. And it lasted a little bit longer, but I jumped ship at some point, which we'll get to.
I guess what I'm thinking though is if they were doing it to keep the existing fans. Yeah. Then would that change your decision than if you were trying to get new fans? If that was your primary directive, in other words, if you were going to bring a new album, okay, we got to get an album cover that's going to that's going to really speak to the masses, so we can get more people into the band.
If new fans mean album sales, then of course they're looking for new fans, definitely.
But I don't, what I'm saying, like I think all these things. Be curious. I'd like that. It's not something I would have thought of before. It would be a really good question for Gene and Paul to answer, to see what they.
What were you thinking?
Well, not so much that. But a serious question was like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
As opposed to what were you thinking?
What were some of the conversations?
Because nobody's
going
perfect.
around the table.
They're fallible like everybody else. They make mistakes, right? And that's part of the history of the band. I mean. Like I said before, they're the sum of every single thing they've ever done, and that includes their mistakes. And
that's right.
I don't think that. Anyway, we can move on to some other albums.
Let's move on to Creatures, and Creatures was the first album to feature Eric Carr in makeup. I think one of the only album cover to feature Eric Carr in makeup. In makeup,
yes.
And it was and for me it was not just a return to hard rock and roll, but a return to the KISS album cover that I wanted. And certainly one of my, not my favorite, but one of my favorite album covers because of the photography. I thought the blue was very cool, because Creatures of the Night, that blue, moonlit, creepy blueness. I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Well, I think they were starting to get me back at that point. They were. Because they went away from the pop and they went, like I know you don't like I Love It Loud, but that video, I talked about this before. I saw the video of I Love It Loud, and I just thought it kicked ass all over the place. Like Gene's character, Paul, the way Paul was playing and moving around, I just thought that that's the band I want to listen to and look at.
And I mean that first track, Creatures of the Night. That just hits you right between the eyes. That is freaking cool. But there's not a whole lot of stuff on it. Other stuff on it I like. There are some of my favorite tracks on it, but getting the album cover itself, I thought was it reassured me that KISS are a band and they have their image and they're going for it, and that's what I needed after the Elder. I needed to know that KISS still existed as KISS, the way they look.
Do you remember that video of I Love It Loud?
Somewhat, as a kid watching TV or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it fades. It actually fades in and fades out. It actually goes down to no volume at the end.
Yeah, the fade out. You get a false fade out at the end of the song.
Yeah, and it's got all these. And then at the end of it's got all these kids, with their eyes glowing.
Yeah.
Right? So the Knights in Satan service thing comes back, right? But that was the whole. We talked about imagery a few, recently, and they'd gone away from. Like I said, they'd gone away from. I mean, Dynasty was with the capes and the colors, and then Unmasked was completely cartoonish, and I don't even know what they wore for those tours.
Well, for the Unmasked tour, they if you notice the cover of Unmasked, they're wearing the Dynasty costumes.
Okay.
And I don't think they really reinvented any costumes until the Elder, and that's when they cut their hair and went with shorter boots.
Yeah.
And much simple, a little more. Gosh, what's the word? Almost artistic rather than garish.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. It was much more lithe and much more energetic looking and nimble looking, if you will. And
I kind of like Gene's Elder costumes.
I don't have any problem with it.
What I didn't like was I'm gonna say the Unmasked. I don't know. It's the one where Gene's chest looks like tinfoil. It just looks like a big clump of tinfoil. It's awful.
Well, you know, I didn't like Paul's purple band.
You don't like his
headband.
purple pirate shirt and
the headband.
Well, the headband. That's probably the worst part of the Elder image. But I thought the shorter hair, it really worked for Eric's Carr. I thought he looked cool with just a little bit shorter hair. But anyway, we're looking at album covers and.
Yeah, but that's part of it. But it all goes together, Jeff. I mean,
the image. Yeah,
I think the Creatures cover tells us that they thought they made a mistake in the previous 2 or 3, and the music too. It says, "Hey, wait, we got to get back. That didn't work. The hair didn't work. The image didn't work. The songs didn't work. We got to go all the way back." They actually went back before, I'd say even before Dynasty, with the type of material they did on Creatures and the cover as well. And
it's rock and roll over again.
Yeah. And Creatures of the Night, the song itself, though, I actually never heard that song, just so you know, until I got Alive 3.
Oh, really?
And
that's a great tune.
It was to me, it was that first real 80s rock tune with the double bass and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Which brings us to their next studio release, which is Lick It Up.
Lick It Up.
There's a departure. This is the turning point in Kiss's career.
Yeah.
For the first time, and Ace is gone. We've now got Vinnie Vincent on the album cover.
Yeah.
Everyone knew that they were unmasking and getting rid of the makeup, going for a new look. So I think the album cover, as plain and simple as it is, it does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that is introduce Kiss as a non-makeup band of the 80s. And that's
clear,
plain and simple.
Clear, simple, white. I think it was white background, right?
Yep.
And what was interesting, like it definitely image departure, leopard boots, chains, colors. I must say that I found Eric and of course Eric and Vinny they didn't quite seem to fit in.
Well, I was thinking about that today, and I thought to myself, would Ace and Peter fit better? I think Vinnie Vincent had that 80s rock star look.
I think he definitely did with the makeup on. Yeah. With the makeup off, he looked a little. I found Eric and Vinny appeared small to me. Compared to
they look small, Gene is so huge.
Well, but that's always been their thing, 7 foot tall because of the pumps, right? And but even still, they were already 6 foot. Like against Paul, I said, there's Paul and Gene, and then there's the other 2 guys, right? And that's one thing I did notice, and then the difference in the colors, but it was really, I got to say though, it was really cool to see that picture finally.
Yeah, I think I saw the video before I saw the album cover.
Yeah, me too.
And I'll never forget, I was at a friend's house, and I was in senior year of high school, and they had these video shows. Before the video channels, there were video shows. So they announced that Lick It Up was coming on.
Yeah.
And I was just glued to the set, and I kind of jumped off a little bit. I wasn't that excited about Kiss anymore. Because, when I got excited about Kiss, I was 12. Now I'm 18, and there's things exciting me a lot more than Kiss. Anyway... so I was kind of glued to the set, and of course all you see are feet walking around and girls coming out of sewers and whatever. And finally, the camera tilts up, and you get your first look at them. I'll never forget that. And I knew who they were exactly. Immediately I knew who they were, and I could name them. I think I named them for my buddy because he wasn't a huge Kiss fan, and he didn't really know who he was looking at.
Right.
But it was so obvious who was Paul and who was Gene and the other 2. And the album, I didn't buy it. I said, no, I could spend my $10 on gas or smokes or something. I didn't need that album. It's not something I needed. Destroyer, I needed. Kiss Alive 2, I needed. But Lick It Up, I didn't need.
See, but by that point, you were at the age, almost at the same age as I was when I was getting into them. Mm-hmm. So see, my viewpoint on it is so different. Like I got into them when I was 17. Yeah. Right? I didn't get into them when I was 12. Right. Yeah. So
and for me, it was letting. That's right, and that's something you chose and decided upon when you're 17, and that's different because when you choose something when you're 12,
right,
that looks really childish by the time you're 18.
Well, exactly.
So for me, I had to let go of Kiss, and I had to go through a whole 80s not even caring about the band until my Kiss Renaissance, which I've mentioned time and time again, in the 90s, and the reunion just was the perfect timing for me. Yeah. The next album is Animalize, and I did get Animalize. My sister bought it for me for Christmas. So my poor sister, she's like, okay, what do you get Jeff for Christmas? Well, Kiss got a new record. There you go. She slaps down $10, and that Christmas gift is done and wrapped and complete. And I played Heaven's on Fire, and I thought, nah, I don't need to play any more of this. And I was completely jumped ship by then.
Yeah, it was the album cover itself. It just again, they were redefining themselves. I found the album cover was reminiscent of Rock and Roll Over, in the sense that they had the faces around the perimeter. I think.
No, we're talking about Animalize.
Yeah, I know.
Animalize has 3 strips of animal fur.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm thinking of.
You're thinking of Crazy Nights.
I'm thinking of. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking of Crazy Nights. That's right.
Yeah. So Animalize was like 3 strips. Why 3? I don't know. It's a 4-person band. It would have made more sense to have 4 strips of. Maybe it is 4. I don't know. 3 strips of animal fur, different patterns. And the word Animalize, and I thought they're just trying too hard to sound to come across as being, dangerous and edgy, and it's like, nah. Yeah. Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin are so much more interesting than this. So I put the record aside and started collecting Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin records.
But
yeah, I was saying that the back cover of Animalize does show a band photo. But it just looked like they were trying too hard to look edgy and dangerous and mysterious, and just didn't do it for me.
Well, it's a texture change, isn't it? I mean, you're going from leather, black, to fur, right?
Yeah.
I mean, fur. No, I mean, but that's quite intentional, I think. Going into the '80s, when if you think about all the things that were going on then, and how they would try. We've talked about this before. In the '80s, they were followers, and in the '70s, they were leaders. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Asylum, which we talked about in our episode 13.
Episode 13, yeah.
Yeah, I found the album cover is almost like a bad Andy Warhol. It's definitely going for that technique. The faces are kind of pink/peachy in tone. It's quite easy to tell who's who, although the faces look very similar.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about Kiss, is they kind of like the similarity. And when Eric Singer appeared with blonde hair, I thought, this is really strange. Kiss never did that. They always went for 4 not identical looking guys, but at least 4 similar looking guys. And when you look at the cover of Asylum, that's what you get. You get this sort of homogeneous look amongst the 4 members. And again, it didn't do anything for me. It didn't excite me at all.
Well, I mean, well, what's the impact to you of not being interested in the music and the covers?
Well, you see, I'm the kind of person who will say, don't judge a book by its cover, and then I'll turn right around and I'll judge a book by its cover, because that's just sort of what we do as human beings. We take a look at the surface and we make a judgment call. For me, it was always an investment. If I'm going to slap down $15 for an album, am I going to get my $15 worth of enjoyment out of it? I was in college, and $15, buys a weekend's worth of beer. So, am I going to slap the money down? Am I going to enjoy the album? It was always a risk. Buying a Kiss album in the 70s wasn't a risk, because I knew I was going to like it. But buying a Kiss album in the 80s, nah. There were so many other exciting albums I wanted to get, so I passed on it.
Well, yeah, I don't have a lot to say about that album cover. Like I said, at that point, the album covers weren't really doing anything for me. It had nothing to do with whether or not I was going to listen to the band or not. Videos had taken over. That was the medium for me. It was on TV, watching the videos, and they kept me in touch with the band. That's what I said. I've said that before. Those videos kept me in touch with the band. But that's all. It didn't make or break it for me either way.
Yeah. And I mean, also bear in mind that we're now in the middle of the 80s, and you have to look at the whole spectrum of what's everyone else doing for album covers. there was a lot of avant-garde stuff going on in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could pretty much almost do anything and call it an album cover. You know, whether it had anything to do with the band or not.
Yeah.
Almost anything constituted an album cover. So, you know, I don't think Asylum is any worse or better than anything else that was produced in the 80s. You know, I mean, look at Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet. You know, it's just a bunch of sweat or water dripping off of skin. You know, it's very sexy and suggestive, but it's not a great album cover.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Whitesnake, just a black album with the letters Whitesnake. You know, nothing exciting.
It was black.
And then you got some really stupid album covers, and I can't mention any by name here, but I mean, 80s. I think anything goes in the 80s. It did. You know, I look at some of the acts that were coming out.
Well, I don't think. Again, I think that part of it. I think videos are way more important.
Yes, it was.
Simple as that. I mean, you know, if you had a great video that got played, then you were going to be okay. But if your album cover wasn't, people didn't buy records anymore. Well, they didn't buy records, and then they didn't buy records anymore by going in and flipping around and looking at things. They saw it on TV.
They saw the video and they would make their choices.
Exactly. That's what I did.
Good point.
I got lots of bands. I got a lot of bands. I got into so many bands in the 80s and 90s simply because of video. If the video wasn't, I wouldn't even be able to find it because I didn't have access to, like now I have Sirius Radio. And, you know, I intentionally listen to things like Liquid Metal. I only like 10% of it. Yeah. But I find, you know, every once in a while I'll find something in there, a jewel in the rough that I want to hear. But
well, you know, a good example of that is The Cult.
Oh yeah.
I saw the video for Love Removal Machine and I thought, this absolutely rocks. The lead guitar work on that was great. The singing was great. It had energy, and I went out and bought the Cult album. I don't even remember what the album cover looked like.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But it had Love Removal Machine, Wildflower. I absolutely loved that stuff. It was great. I don't remember what the album cover.
Oh yeah, one of the bands I love that you don't know much about is King's X, and I was living in Moncton at the time, and I just saw them on a video show, and I loved they got a song called Over My Head, and but their album, this is the album name. It's called Gretchen Goes to Nebraska.
There you go.
But the cover, like, okay, so it kind of reminds me of an old Beatles cover, but I never would have even come close to buying that band unless I'd seen them on those videos, right?
Yeah. And again, like you hit the nail on the head, the video age changed everything. Because in the 70s, people walked into the record stores and it was the album cover that had to grab them. Now the videos could hook people in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Asylum had... Yeah, okay. Asylum had just had their faces on there, and
yeah, and they were done in sort of an Andy
sort of cartoony, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Which leads us up to Crazy Nights.
Yeah.
I think you were.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's
the one I was thinking of.
It's not bad photography, and it almost reminds me of the Smashed Mirror on Paul Stanley's.
That's what I was thinking.
Iceman.
Yeah,
you know, that's what it is. You got these faces reflected in a smashed mirror. Ironically, it's Gene and Paul that are upright, and the other two guys are upside down. So,
that makes
not
sense.
ironic. No, not ironically. What's the word?
It's
expected.
Expected. Yeah. I mean,
yes.
you're not. I mean, you wouldn't do it any other way. But again, that was the cover I was saying. It's okay. Here we are. That one is reminiscent of Rock and Roll Over.
Is it ever reminiscent of Rock and Roll Over? It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Only in photography.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the album itself, I mean, gosh, but I don't even really want to go. You know, it's funny, though, some people love that album. Who was I talking to? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Oh, I know. It was a young guy I play with, my buddy Justice there. He really loves Crazy Nights. So, I just never got into it. I couldn't handle what was going on there, right?
No. Kiss had to do something really radical and different for me to start buying albums. And we'll get to that. We're coming up to that real soon, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The next one is, we're ready for the most stupid Kiss album cover.
You don't like pyramids, and you don't like the what is it, the
Oh, come on, what the frig does a sphinx wearing sunglasses have to do with Kiss?
Sphincter.
Up your sphincter.
Sunglasses are cool, man.
Now look, I'm going to insert my version of that, okay? You know, I think if they went out and got a picture of the Easter Island heads and put Groucho Marx noses on them, it would have been as related to Kiss as Hot in the Shade. I mean, come on, what were they thinking?
Well,
you know what? I couldn't care less how good the music is on Hot in the Shade. I wouldn't buy it just because of the album cover.
Doesn't it remind you of an Iron Maiden cover?
Which one?
Does it remind you of an Iron Maiden cover?
Oh yeah. Well, it's very much like Power Slave.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were thinking of Power Slave. Power Slave is a cool album cover, though.
I know, but it was just about execution, right? It was a little, but again, it's that whole sort of theme, Egyptian theme, right?
And again, like The Elder, had it not had the Kiss logo on the front, I never would have said it was a Kiss album. The same thing with Hot in the Shade, and the Kiss logo was very small and hard to find on that one.
I bet you that what this was about. I bet you they.
Oh, you know, but I figured it out. I figured out why. Oh, sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I think.
No, I had a thought, but I cut you off.
Well, I have a theory.
Yeah, what's your theory?
My theory is that was a Spinal Tap moment, and that they found some. They researched and they found a piece of gear that they could use, a prop that they could use on stage, and they decided to build the album around that. So they got a good deal on an Egyptian artifact that they could use, and that's why they did the cover that way, and nothing to do with anything else.
Or you could also look at it as the original. The original concept was a woman on all fours and a glove being shoved in her face, but Kmart made them change it.
That's right. Well, I can tell you it wasn't a glove in the original.
You should say what they wanted.
They say that was. It wasn't a glove, I can tell you that. Yeah.
Anyway, but I did figure it out. When I really took the time to look at it, it's like a postal stamp. So the Kiss logo is instead of postal stamp. So the idea is that it's a postcard. But postcards are rectangular, and looking at this square piece of artwork, I never would have got that immediately. But I guess the point is like, hey, we're on vacation, and where we are, it's so hot in the shade. Don't you wish you were us? But I think a better way to go would have been to show Paul and Gene sitting on a beach somewhere with a parasol and maybe some bikini girls. I don't mean to be sexist, but something to show, hey, we're on vacation and it's hot in the shade. But this Sphinx with sunglasses, I thought was.
I don't even think it mattered, right? I think that
because the album didn't matter to me at that point.
I mean, I don't think it mattered to them either. I think they realized that the album cover, just like we started talking about just a second ago. I think they okay, whatever. And it was a bit of a throwaway album, it seems, too, the way they put it together. So I don't know. I think they're just trying to find their image, right? They've been struggling since Dynasty to find the image where they're really comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think the next album is when they started to figure out musically on Hot in the Shade, but image-wise, I think they finally figured it out on the next album.
Revenge. Again, no members on the front cover. You just get a almost like sheet metal with rivets.
Yeah.
You get the Kiss logo.
Yeah.
You get Revenge. I think it's kind of like bloody red lettering, almost like the inside of the Love Gun album liner. So I thought it was kind of cool, but again, relying on video. By this time, we're into the early '90s, and I saw the video for Domino, and I thought, you know what, Kiss are kind of looking cool again. It's kind of edgy, and I like Gene's beard. Yep. There was almost like a sense of humor to it, and I thought, I think I would buy Revenge. I haven't bought Revenge, but I looked at it and I thought, I think Kiss are returning to, not returning to, but I think they're finally finding an image that fits them, and I think a lot of people would like it.
They got away from colors. They went back to black leather, right? And and also a couple other things were happening. Bruce Kulick was finally fitting into his own skin, and he actually found the rock star that he could be, as opposed to this, as they said, he was a mannequin, when he first started, and so he's finally getting cool, and Paul's finding a new look for himself, and Gene, you're right, remember he started wearing all kinds of jewelry on his fingers and things that crinkled, and remember, because I think was it Kiss Extreme or Kiss Exposed? They put out a couple of videos around that time.
Yeah.
And but the videos were everything. I mean, if you look at Unholy, I mean that got all kinds of play. Paul's doing the Unholy thing, and the video for Take It Off. If I was 18, that would have got me. Yeah.
The other thing to put into perspective there is I think a lot of Kiss fans were saddened by the death of Eric Carr. Even if you weren't on board in the 80s as I was, I mean, Eric Carr certainly was a member of the band. And as a person, you just have to feel a little sorrow for the loss of a great drummer, a great rock star, a very, very super guy from what I've heard about him. And now Kiss returns, and there's a curiosity. Well, who's this new guy? Oh, his name is Eric also? He's got long blonde hair. And I'm thinking, okay, they're straying away from that, four very similar looking guys. And I thought, yeah, this is a new Kiss, and I was kind of hoping something new was on the horizon, and it was. I didn't realize how big it was going to be. But.
I did start to get, again, the album cover was irrelevant, other than I knew who it was.
It was, because I saw the video, and the video had more impact than the album cover.
I think Hot in the Shade is one of those albums, like there's about a handful of things on there that were giving you a clue where they were going, and then Revenge started. They didn't quite finish where they were heading, but Revenge started to show us some things. Okay, Unholy. I like Unholy. I like Take It Off. There's there's another handful of really good kick-ass songs on that album, and then they went on to something else, right?
Yeah.
Just
to insert a couple in there, Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. Which was a greatest hits compilation. Just a very basic cover of the four members of Kiss, nothing exciting, And it was again an attempt to sell some units, but just by capitalizing on songs like Deuce and Beth and things like that. Kiss Alive 3. I bought Kiss Alive 3 because it had Creatures, it had Deuce, it had Watching You. I wanted to hear the new live version of Watching You. I wanted to hear someone else playing the lead guitar just to compare. I thought Kiss Alive 3 was a good album, but the album cover itself certainly got my attention. And simple, very simple design.
Yeah, it was just I really listened to that album and played with that album a lot. I enjoyed it, Kiss Alive 3, and I liked some of the interpretations. Some of them I didn't like. I kind of was wondering, like, what was the point of doing Deuce? And It didn't sound anywhere near as good as the original version, but the album cover itself, it kind of reminds you of Kiss Alive 2 in a way, right? And
same concept and idea. Only this time now they can insert photography behind the lettering, and just very simple Photoshop exercise. But I thought it was kind of cool. It had some good color. It caught my eye.
No, it was not. I mean, it was a good cover. I mean, again, it was. And I'm trying to think. What they did, they did God Gave Rock and Roll to You was on there, right?
Yeah, that was on it too.
Right?
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of songs on there. I liked that album, I gotta say. Like, I enjoyed it a lot. I was getting back. That was around that same time you and I were getting. I was getting back into Kiss when you were around at that point, right? And
well, that was my Kiss renaissance. The next big thing to happen, because I was now in college and I'd been through the '80s, and I thought, I want to start listening to Kiss again. So I picked up a couple of Kiss CDs. And started learning to play the stuff, and I learned it. I didn't realize they tuned down, so I was learning all this stuff in flats. But I was having this little Kiss renaissance, and I saw some albums at yard sales, and I picked those up, brought them home because Mom and Dad had all my Kiss records in New Brunswick. I was in Newfoundland, and then the next big thing to come along was Kiss My Ass, and I thought, all right, Kiss is retro, it's cool again. And, I said, I wouldn't dare wear a Kiss T-shirt in the 80s, but if I had a Kiss T-shirt by 1992 or 93, I would have worn it proudly. Yeah, Kiss My Ass came out around 93, I think, 92 or 93, and I was ready for that. A Kiss tribute. That would be so friggin' cool. I didn't realize that it was, I saw an ad on TV, maybe on Much Music. I didn't realize that Paul and Gene were behind it. I didn't know it was an official Kiss release. But when it came to the store, I mean, I hit the record store a couple of times to see if it was there. I hit it too early. I finally got it, brought it home, and it did it for me. I loved it. Just loved hearing Kiss. I think the message from that album was that, Kiss didn't go anywhere. We're still around. It's retro. It's cool. It's cool to be a Kiss fan.
Well, at that point, it was sort of, hey, look at all the people who have been influenced by Kiss.
That's what it was.
Garth Brooks, Extreme,
Lenny Kravitz,
Anthrax, all these different bands that, well, like obviously Garth Brooks was a surprise to me, but that was, I guess what I'm wondering is do you think that album was maybe even more relevant to their own albums at the time?
I don't know if it's more relevant. It certainly marked a place in the history of their albums, their discography.
It was more interesting to me than, say, what was being recorded right before, like more so than Hot in the Shade, let's say. It was more. I was more excited because you kind of brought this one to my attention, and I was much more excited about that and the different versions. Oh, remember what was the one?
Well, we're going to do a show on. We're going to do a show on "Kiss My Ass."
Oh, that's right. We'll do a whole show.
But let's just look at the cover. You've got this. You got this family sitting down to a meal, and you've got this little girl in Jean makeup. You got the dad in Paul makeup. The mother is in Peter Criss makeup, and I was a little confused by the boy because I didn't know who he was supposed to be. And it wasn't until years later I realized that, well, I kind of figured it out on my own. They didn't want to use Ace Frehley's image in that album. And if you look inside, there's a lot of the liner photographs are photographs of people with Kiss tattoos. And in a lot of them, they've blocked out Ace Frehley's image. And I heard many years later that it was just a legal thing. They would have to pay Ace for every time they used his image, but not Peter. So they used Paul Stanley's original gold bandit design on the boy, and I'd never seen that before. Paul's original gold. This is pre-internet, so I hadn't seen that. So that was the reason for it. And the other thing that was neat, and I didn't learn this until the video, was that each country had a different backdrop.
Yeah.
And I wondered, why does ours have a Canadian
different flags?
I didn't know that. I figured they all had Canadian flags, but I don't know. That's only because I bought it in Canada, and I was naive. But anyway. And I wonder if that was, now that I think about it, was that just a ploy to get people to collect them?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. There's certainly part of that, and part of if we're not as skeptical, we just think they just wanted to have each country have their own. You talked about Gene and Paul being involved. I didn't really realize they were involved either until I saw there was a video of them doing Anthrax did She, and they were in the studio with them.
Yeah, they produced it.
Yeah, they were in the studio. Showed them, showed Gene showing one of the guitar players the bass part or something like that, and they were both.
Well, they sang the backups on Hard Luck Woman. I think they played all the instruments on Hard Luck Woman. And when you see Garth Brooks on, I think it's Letterman, it's Kiss playing for Garth Brooks. So they were behind that project.
Yeah.
But the big thing, when it had nothing to do with the cover, but the packaging, when you open it up and you pull out the CD, underneath the clear plastic was a note to Ace and Peter. We miss you. We could never have done this without what the four of us started so many years ago. And the minute I saw that, I just knew. I said, Paul and Gene are fishing. They're fishing. They're trying to get the Kiss Army back on board, and that Kiss My Ass album was the perfect vehicle to get the Kiss Army back in on board and get them ready for something retro, something new, and something that the Kiss Army has wanted for at least 15 years. I think it was foreshadowing, and I think Paul and Gene knew it, and I think a lot of people in the Kiss Army knew it.
Yeah, the thing I was thinking about, when you were talking earlier about the family sitting around the table, I was thinking of Cadillac, Michigan. I was thinking about all those, them sitting at this table with the mayor and all these these people there wearing Kiss makeup, and it was so obvious. It was like, this guy who's like 60 years old is wearing Kiss makeup. That was on
with his glasses on, right?
And now here's an old man wearing Kiss makeup. He's sitting there looking and he goes. Anyway,
I mean, that's a good point, and there's another topic for another time. But how ridiculous do some people look in Kiss makeup? And when you see a member of Kiss in Kiss makeup, it just looks right.
Yeah.
So the camera pans this huge table of people in Cadillac, Michigan, and they just look absolutely ridiculous until you catch sight of Ace or Paul, and it just looks right.
Exactly. And
I often thought, wouldn't it be funny if just for a joke, if they traded personas?
Yeah.
You know, what if you took Paul and dressed him up as Gene and put him in a Gene? There's a picture somewhere of Paul Stanley wearing an Ace Frehley costume.
Really?
And it just looks wrong.
Yeah,
he's wearing the Dynasty costume.
We connect all these things,
and it looks wrong.
Yeah, I can see that. So that was so Revenge, and then that album,
and then you had MTV Unplugged.
Oh yeah, right. They don't. Yeah.
Which is not the most exciting album cover, but it does what it's supposed to do. Again, what sold that album is the fact that you've got Ace and Peter back on board. You've got Kiss classics, which are going to sell to the Kiss Army. Done in a different way, which is what Kiss My Ass was.
Yeah.
You know, Kiss classics done in a different way. So the album cover could be anything, and the most obvious thing to put on the album cover is just a picture of them on stage with acoustic guitars in their hands.
It felt like that album cover really felt like an afterthought. So, hey, let's put an album out. You know, let's record this and put it out, and then we need a cover, because it really doesn't have a lot of forethought into it. Like the set of that show had more thought put into it than with the different things that were going on there. Way more thought than the actual album cover did. The album cover was, I mean, again, it didn't matter because we had already.
It's just someone's still photo from the audience.
Yeah, we already thought. We were already. We'd already bought the concept of what they were doing at that stage. And it didn't matter what the album.
And we were buying it regardless because we wanted to see the four original members, on stage again doing classic Kiss stuff. And I know you bought the video.
Yeah.
And we rushed home to my apartment. We watched it in my apartment. And, we just had a great afternoon watching that. And it didn't matter what was on the cover.
Well, what I really loved about it is, and we talked about this on the previous episode, we talked about the Unplugged, and it was just that it showed that they actually had talent. And but the album, the album cover, like I said, just a photo, so it's not much to it.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Now there's some gray area here as to what came next, but what would have come next would have been Carnival of Souls.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really cool album cover because it was just a picture of them in the studio.
Well, there's different versions, right?
You can see a little mix. Oh, there's different versions of it, yeah. But the one I usually think of, it shows them. You can see microphone stands. You can see some cables on the ground. It looks like they're in a studio setting. And I thought they're not going for any silly gimmick or anything. It looks like just a straight ahead rock and roll album, and the focus is on the music. That's what came across to me, and plus, you're also showing Eric Singer in the band for the first time. So I thought that was kind of a cool album cover. Not cool, but it just did what it was supposed to do. But by that time, the Kiss fans were saying, whatever happened to that album? Whatever happened to it? When are we going to see that? So there was a lot of hype already for Carnival of Souls before anyone even saw the album cover.
Yeah, and the thing that stuck out for me in that album cover it's an odd thing, really, when you think about it, was the guitar that Bruce Kulick was holding. Right?
Is it a BC Rich?
It's like a BC Rich or a Lado or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Which was it's one of those wood grain ones, right?
Yes.
Which definitely didn't look like any guitar that anybody in Kiss would have had, right?
Yeah, you're getting away from that angular, smashed mirror, kind of thing, and then they'd return they'd already returned to the glitter with the reunion, but no, I liked his choice of guitar on
that. There's another. We should find both covers because there's the cover you're talking about, but then there's another cover that's out there on that same album, and it's really generic, but it's very dark if I remember correctly. I gotta find it.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's out there. I've seen it. There's a variation of it, and it doesn't have. I don't think it doesn't have Bruce Kulick or any of the band members on. I think it's got some imagery on it. Anyway, I'll find it. We'll have to find it and
well, if you watch the Kiss My Ass video, Gene talks about the new album coming up, and he shows some artwork, and it shows someone kind of holding a mask and flames coming out of the top of their head, and that was supposed to be the Carnival of Souls album cover.
Yeah.
But that never came out.
I don't know where I saw it. I don't know.
I'm
where
sure
I saw
there's. Yeah.
I don't know where I saw it, but the actual album name is Carnival of Souls: The Final Sessions.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah,
and you know, I haven't really listened to it a whole lot. It's not.
Well,
because at that time there was so much else exciting going on.
Yeah.
One of my favorite album covers is "You Wanted the Best." I just love that when that came out. I bought that pretty damn quick.
Oh yeah.
Now we're the reunion. The 4 original are back together. They're on tour, and now this was material that I had, but there was material on it that I didn't have, like the live versions of the Room Service, "Let Me Know," Two-Timer. That was definitely worth the price to buy that. Yeah. But the album cover itself had some beautiful artwork. The faces were much more clear than on most Kiss albums. I thought I only wish I had it in vinyl, because by then all you could get was a CD or a cassette. So.
There was also an album cover.
I just wish I had the vinyl just for the size.
Yeah, there was an album out there called Kiss Killers too, right?
Killers, yeah. That's not very common. I think it might. I don't think it was that common in North America, was it? I think it was more of a European.
Yeah, it was. It had them in elder costumes.
Elder gear
with Ace
and
on
I think Eric with Ace and Eric Carr.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we're getting down to the bottom of our list. Psycho Circus.
Yeah.
A confusing album cover. This bloody big clown with a big wide open mouth, and then 3D as you flip the album
hologram
up and down, you get different versions of their faces. Not very clear. It's kind of a fuzzy album cover, but the whole circus thing, I didn't like the comic book, and I didn't care for it.
What did you think of the artwork? It reminds me of Stephen King. It reminds me of It.
Yes, because of the creepy clown.
Yeah.
But on the back cover of it, you get something kind of cool. You get some very clear photos of the band. However, something changed. It says the Demon, Starchild, Catman, and I don't know if it says Spaceman or Space Ace. I think it might have said Space Ace.
Yeah, you're right.
But anyway, and I thought, okay, they knew something that I didn't know. Was that they were more concerned with the characters than they were with the actual players, because apparently Peter Criss didn't do any drumming on that album.
Right.
Ace Frehley did very little guitar work. It was all Tommy Thayer. Not long after that, Gene had set up a tour, I think of Japan, and he worded it in such a way, and I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the business of it, but I've heard that he worded it in such a way that this tour would include the 4 original characters, not the 4 original band members. And when they accepted that contract, Gene was able to say, okay, I can put anybody I want in cat makeup. Now, who do I want behind me on the drums? I want Eric Singer. And Eric Singer's not going to turn it down.
No.
So yes, they can. And since then, it's been Demon, Starchild, Spaceman, and Catman. It's been like that ever since.
Yeah, except that Gene has his own TV show that brands him tightly to it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, there's Gene Simmons, the man, and then there's the Demon.
Yeah,
and I think he likes to keep them very separate.
I don't know what he likes.
Alive 4 Symphony.
Yeah,
just a very simple cover. It had some cool artwork on the inside, but I think there's a black version of it, and I think there's sort of a silver gray version. But you don't get anything more than the Kiss logo, and then you have this almost like a coat of arms. The Kiss coat of arms, where you have these guitars and some other kind of gothic image.
I thought the whole, and we said we were going to talk about Symphony at some point. We never did do it.
Well, there's a show right there. We could do the Symphony.
Yeah, because
as a show.
I actually don't think I thought it was really strange, the timing of the Symphony, because Metallica had done one just previous to that and was extremely successful with the San Francisco Philharmonic. And but Kiss, I didn't like what Kiss did with it at all. But I didn't mind the original set. But once they got the orchestra involved, but the cover, yeah. And then what was after that? Sonic Boom?
Sonic Boom. It was designed by Michael Dorrit, or Doré, who also did Rock and Roll Over.
Yeah, no kidding.
And you can see a similar theme between
Yeah.
that spiral radial design from both. I didn't like the Sonic Boom cover at all. I thought it was, again, it's like an art student's failed project.
Well, here's what I'll say about that, and I'm going to be super cynical for just 1 second, okay? So if
Jeff gets cynical, here we go.
Yeah. So if you are a Tommy and Eric hater, okay?
Yeah.
If you think they're a ripoff, okay? And I'm not saying I am thinking that way, but this album cover, the first thing I thought of recently when I looked at it was, oh, well, that's a ripoff of Rock and Roll Over, and they've got the two. They got that's the album that they introduced. They really have Tommy and Eric on it, right, together, and that's kind of what it makes me think of. And I've said that I think everybody knows where I stand on this, so it's not like I don't have anything against those guys at all. But that's all I can think of is like, Jesus Christ, why didn't you come up with something original? Like here you are, 30 some odd years into it at that point, and you come up with a cover that looks like Rock and Roll Over. Like, jeez, I wouldn't even have it. I wouldn't have it unless Donna bought it for me.
Yeah, the photo shoots of the new band look pretty good. I mean, those photo shoots could have been used as an album cover. But I didn't like the title, Sonic Boom. Come on.
What does it what does it mean? I think it's Gene Big Fart or something like that.
They're moving so fast through rock and roll history that it makes a sonic blast.
It makes me think that. Yeah, I didn't like that title either.
No.
Right? And I didn't. It didn't feel Kiss-like. It felt. I don't even know what it felt extraordinarily contrived in a not a good way. But anyway, that's just my take on it. But the cover, that's all I could think about with the cover, was that it's a ripoff. And why are you doing that? And oh yeah, guess what? You got the two guys that are wearing the makeup too, right?
Yeah. Now, in contrast to that, you have the Monster cover.
Yes.
And on one of the Facebook pages, it's called 70s Kiss. They're very active. They're just posting stuff, numerous times daily, and they get some good discussions going. So there was I was involved in a discussion on album covers, and someone really put down Monster, and I kind of defended it a bit. I thought Monster is a good album cover, and for the reason that the photography is good. You can see the Kiss members very clearly. It represents who the band is today, not who they once were or who they're trying to be. The fact that Eric is looking like he's going to punch Gene, I'm not sure what that's all about. But I think it's a good album cover. It's good photography, just for that simple fact that it's a good photo of the band and who they are today.
It's way better than Sonic Boom. It's way better than Psycho Circus as a cover. Actually, it's probably their best cover from an art perspective, like interesting looking for a long, long time. But it looked like, I don't know, I didn't like the name Monster. I didn't again, I said, okay, come on, you can come up with something different than that. But I did like the look of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good photography.
It's interesting though. Tommy and Paul are face on, and Gene and Eric are profile, right? And it really shows how short Eric. It makes Eric look like makes Eric look like a hobbit. He looks like Frodo Baggins, right? He looks like Frodo Baggins. Is what he looks like. And Gene's the big troll, right?
Yes, yeah.
But Paul's hand coming right out at you. Is a nice
reaching right out.
I think Paul makes that cover right.
Yeah, No, it's interesting. Did you buy the Kiss Monster book? The $3,000 book?
Yeah.
Apparently, nobody has bought that.
I can't imagine. Big pictures, right?
Well, I mean, the book is something like 4 feet tall. I mean, I just don't see how you could even look at it.
It's a monster.
It's a monster, and I don't know.
So what's the next cover going to look like?
Well, that's what you said. We've come to the bottom of our list, so we can only speculate. Is there another album? And if there is, what's the cover going to look like? Personally, I'd love to see a return to the style of a Destroyer and Love Gun. Sure, they've got new costumes and they're kind of cool, except for Paul's bra.
Yeah, I know. I told you.
But I mean, some of the photo shoots they've done in the newer costumes are kind of cool. I'd like to see Ken Kelly whip up something in the style of Love Gun. I think it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's a whole. I mean, from a cover perspective, again, like I said, I actually really haven't bought any Kiss records since Kiss Alive based on the cover. This is, I don't know what that says, but that was the only album I can truly say, okay, I like that song, and oh man, that cover's so fucking cool. You know, that's what a band that is, right? That's the last time that I bought something of theirs for that reason.
And I mean, what have you bought in the last 20, 30 years based on a cover? Something you didn't know. You thought, wow, if the cover's that cool, I'm willing to take a chance on the record. You know, I can think of maybe 2 or 3 that I found. One of them is Ted Nugent in Double Live Guns.
Oh, really?
The way he's posed with it, he's got his hands over his ears.
Oh, okay.
Like he's like the feedback, and this big, huge Gibson Birdland. Yeah. He played Gibson Birdlands, and I thought that album cover just looks cool enough that I'm going to take a chance on this, and I love the album. I thought, this guy rocks. Just love that album.
Yeah, he gets himself into a lot of political hot water these days, but that was that album was a big influence on me, and Ted Nugent was someone I played a lot of right around the same time I started playing Kiss. I love playing Ted Nugent music, and his live show was fantastic back in the 70s. But anyway, his covers were all sort of like Tarzan. Tarzan. He used to do that. He used to come in and swoop.
He'd swing in. He'd come in on and some of them he'd ride in on a buffalo.
Yeah, he had a vine he'd come in on, and right.
Yeah,
and
he had a live buffalo on a couple.
No
of
doubt, he probably killed something too. Like he's a big hunter, right?
He'd take out his bow and arrow and shoot.
He killed the deer on stage, took the heart out, took a bite out of it. And
yeah, that's Ted. Yeah. But do you know what Ted said in Montreal? We went to Montreal for the farewell tour. Yeah. It's the summer of 2000, and it was Skid Row and Ted Nugent. Oh, yeah. And I didn't bother to sit and listen to Skid Row, but I sat and listened to Ted Nugent. Anyway, his roadie brings out a guitar. He says, just hang on while I switch guitars. And he brings him another Gibson Les Paul. He's playing Les Pauls now, which are probably a little more easier to control on stage than a Birdland. So anyway, he says, this is a great guitar idea. This guitar is fantastic. This guitar is made in the best country in the world, the United States of fucking America. And he said, I'd play a Canadian guitar if they made any.
He just doesn't.
This is what he said in Montreal, and I thought,
he just doesn't care. Okay. He got himself. He doesn't care.
However, it gets better. You know what he says then? He says, the way I see it, if you can't speak English, stay the hell out of my country. He said this live on stage in Montreal.
So what did people say in Montreal?
Oh, he was booed like crazy. He finished his set. Now, here's what's funny. About 2 years later, Leonard Skinner had come to St. John, and the opening act is Ted Nugent. Now, I was on this anti-Ted kick. I was like, I gave away all my Ted Nugent records at a yard sale. The 50 cents, take them all. So anyway, I was totally anti-Ted, so I was kind of forced to sit and listen to Ted. Ted comes out and he starts like praising Canada like crazy, and he says something like, "You guys are great. You guys are amazing." He said, fuck that Toronto shit. This is Canada right here in St. John, New Brunswick. And the whole place went mad. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're good, Ted. You're good.
He was getting into politics at that point.
Oh, yeah.
He's big in it.
He's an odd duck, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Something we should do. We should do a show sometime on the bands that have opened for Kiss.
For sure.
And were like Cheap Trick, Ted Nugent, Rush, Blue Oyster Cult, some of those bands around that time, and how they were perceived and how they survived, alongside of Kiss in that particular environment.
Yeah, and how generous Kiss was to them. That's my understanding is that Kiss has always been. Well, and that's another show, but my understanding is that Kiss has always been really was it Alex? Was it? I think it was Alex Lifeson or Geddy Lee, or no, it was Neil Peart who was talking about Kiss, and he said how they had been so generous with stages, in terms of giving them a full stage and the sound system, whereas a lot of opening acts didn't get that because the band who was headlining didn't want them to sound so great because they he said it shows you what kind of confidence they had in themselves, right?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, somebody said, I don't know who it was, but yeah. So we got through all the albums.
This is a long show. This is close to an hour and a half, so I can edit it down a little bit. But no, it's fun. I've been wanting to do album covers too for a long time. There's so many topics, so it took us 14 episodes to get back to album covers, and I think it's interesting. So there's a comprehensive look from the very first album right up to Monster.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't try and figure out what people are going to be interested in anymore, because it always surprises me, you know. And the albums itself, I was going, okay, well, you know, look, you can tell probably because, like I said, the way I look at things, it hasn't been a big influence on me for this band. But, you know, a lot of people really care about this stuff and really take it seriously.
Yeah. I don't know if any band is taken as seriously as Kiss. My God, the number of websites and Facebook pages and talk shows, and I mean, it's, if anything, it's an ego boost for Kiss. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
As if their egos couldn't get any bigger, but. Anyway.
So go watch some of the other episodes. We got we're getting all kinds of new people watching, making comments on YouTube, as I said. So go back and look at some of the old episodes. As I said the other day, Double Virgo, the guy who did the Secretly Cruel video, that we showed that on episode 13. He came back and had watched a few of the episodes of the show, and you know, lots of different people. And actually, I've been encouraging people now, Jeff, is that, you know, it'd be kind of cool if you know, if you're watching the show, if you want to send us a little video greeting to the show, we can work that into a show sometime or on the page for sure. And
well, something we want to do down the road are Kiss tributes, and not just tribute bands, but ways in which people tribute Kiss, either through artwork. You know, maybe they've created a cover like the Double Virgo guy. People who have their own talk shows and Facebook pages. So I mean, you know, that's, you know, I'm hoping we can insert a lot of the different ways in which people tribute Kiss.
And our page has actually been kind of centered around that. Like our Facebook page has been built around not just the show, but also about, we've spent significant time showing artists and videos of tribute bands and all those kind of things, trying to support the whole effort. So
exactly.
But that'd be kind of cool. And, you know, the other thing I'd be wondering too, like last time we asked people to, you know, on the 13th show, we'll get people telling us what their top 13 songs were, and they're having a real difficult time with that. In this case, I'd be kind of curious to see what album covers people really enjoy and what are their favorite albums.
Well, you know, there's a big debate, on some of those Facebook pages, and, you know, there's some real diehard rock and roll over fans, just the cover itself, and then, you know, one guy said Destroyer or Love Gun. You know, and there's this big debate going back and forth, and everybody has a reason why they like one over the other.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so that wraps up episode 15 of Watching You, and we're now into 2014. We're into our second year of production, and we got all kinds of new Kiss topics and ideas to come up in the new year.
Yeah, we do.
This is Jeff Scott in St. John, New Brunswick,
and Jeff Gray in Stewiacke, Nova Scotia.
Okay, thanks for watching. We'll see you again.
Thank you all.
I'm Watching You.